All right, I was going to just watch this on my other channel, Chris Bolts, which, by the way, if you guys want good news on anime and video games and all that, go follow my other channel, Chris Bolts. That's my main channel, actually. So, yeah, I do a lot of otaku shit over there and whatnot. But I wanted to go ahead and just do my own video on this one. Now, this video is coming courtesy of the lead attorney, who's this guy down here. Make sure you guys go ahead and give him a follow. And if you want to watch this video without my commentary or anything like that, I will put a link in the description. Now, he's going to be primarily talking about this fellow right here, but these are the parents of one Karmelo Anthony. And if you watched my short or been watching the news lately, you know that Karmelo Anthony has been indicted on first-degree murder charges. The grand jury came back, determined that they saw the evidence and found the evidence and the prosecution's case sufficient enough to go ahead and charge him with first-degree murder. Which, me personally, I had no doubt that is what was going to come back. You can't just come up and just stab somebody in the heart because you don't like the fact that someone is telling you to do something. Touch me and see what happens. Which, by the way, for those of you who don't understand, you don't need a lot of planning to get charged with first-degree murder or to be accused of premeditation. The mere fact that Carmelo Anthony said, "Touch me and see what happens," and then proceeded to stab Austin Metcalf in the heart with a knife is just more than enough to go ahead and do that. But let's go ahead and have me shut up. Let's have a lead attorney go ahead and start talking on this issue right here.
To say something as a deep note that I can tell America. What we seen at the beginning of this press conference, the father being at this press conference, these are my words. Don't quote anybody.
And if you guys aren't aware, the father of Austin Metcalf, I think his name is Jeff Metcalf, showed up at this presser for Carmelo Anthony. And before anything could even get started, he was promptly escorted out by the security that was hired by this Dominique Alexander. And they took him right out of there. And so that's what he's commenting on right there.
Is a disrespect to the dignity of his son.
This guy right here is Minister Dominique Alexander. He is Carmelo Anthony's family representative. Now, he's speaking on behalf of the family. He's not an attorney, not a lawyer. He is a minister. A minister of what type? Well, he calls himself a minister of justice. I believe.
Well, it's part of the scam. I mean, you got Reverend Jesse Jackson, you got Reverend Al Sharpton, you got a lot of other of these reverends. It's like if black people put reverend or minister in front of their names, it automatically gives them some type of clout. There's Reverend Jamal Bryant, all these pieces of crap who use the title of reverend and the Bible and Christianity as a shield to protect themselves from any type of criticism or the immoral acts that they are getting ready to engage in. A minister of justice, like what the hell does minister of justice mean? What does that mean? And what I would want to know is, how does Carmelo Anthony's parents know who this man is? Who approached whom? That's what I want to know. How did this relationship even get started?
That he represents everything wrong with how this family is handling this case. He represents the grift and the ignorance of the Karmelo family when it comes to administering the most important matter in their entire life. Now, let's take a step back for a second. We all remember the facts of this Carmelo Anthony case.
17-year-old Carmelo Anthony is accused of stabbing and killing another teen, Austin Metcalf, at a track meet back in April. Now, Anthony claims it was self-defense.
It's certainly not self-defense, but we'll talk about that in a second. After this guy Carmelo stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest, His family set up this GoFundMe type of account to help with his legal expenses. You can see right here that the campaign was created by the Anthony family and it has raised $541,000, so $500,000. And their goal is to raise $1.4 million in total. Now,
just some clarification on that. The original goal was to raise $500,000 or some ungodly number, and they reached that goal. But then after he was charged with, or rather indicted with first-degree murder, the family came back and said, well, we need to go ahead and raise additional funds, and we need to get it to $1.4 million. So there wasn't, they made an amendment to the goal. They didn't come back and say, well, create a second GoFundMe. They just amended this current goal to be for 1.4 million. Now, why do they need 1.4 million? That's an interesting question. It'd be nice to find that out in the beginning when all this money was being raised, and he'll talk about this in just a minute. They were being accused of spending this money on luxurious homes, on luxurious cars, and all kinds of other stuff, and not putting the money towards a legal defense fund. More on that here, and he's going to be going over that in just a second. But this obviously just raises the case, or rather the question. What are you guys spending that money on? Where did it all go?
The Karmelo family has come under heavy fire for not only setting up this GoFundMe type of account, but then allegedly misspending the money on a luxury apartment and on a car. Then on top of that, they've come under even more scrutiny for raising the goal amount from $500,000 to $1.4 million. Everybody is asking, where is the money going? You would think that the money would be going to Karmelo's legal defense, right? That's why all the black Democrats come out in support of Karmelo. They rush to defend him, donating to his cause. But if he has amassed over $500,000 for his legal defense, why is a minister of justice speaking on the family's behalf? Where is this attorney who just got 500 grand? Why is...
And that's a good question. And by the way, the attorney, let me go ahead and pull up the attorney here for Karmelo Anthony. He's supposed to be some type of big shot in the in that particular part of the country. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? Right here. I think his last name was Howard. That's not right there or anything. I wish they had here, right here. This is this video right here. This guy right here is allegedly the attorney for Karmelo Anthony. Notice the skin color right there. He's not a black man or anything like that. And once again, he's supposed to be, and that all that shouldn't even matter, because what should matter is that you get the best representation that you can possibly get. But this is the attorney. He looks clean, sharp, and he's supposed to be one of the best in the Frisco area.
Expected and routine step in the legal process. An indictment is a procedural step that happens in virtually every felony criminal case. It's a document that lays out for both the prosecution and the defense what the prosecution must prove beyond a reasonable doubt in court.
All right, and we don't need to keep going there or anything like that, but it doesn't tell his name or anything. Let me go back here. Let's see. Maybe this article will probably tell us who it is. Right here, Mike Howard, Dallas criminal defense attorney. So that's who they hired. Let's go ahead and pull up Mike Howard. The law offices of Mike Howard PLLC. And he looks to be a real big shot. Got a lot of experience: domestic violence, drug crimes, DWI, violent crime, sex. So he specializes in felonious crimes. So you would expect that he specializes in criminal law. You would expect that he would be the lead person on this particular issue for the Anthony family. Nope. We got some crazed man right here, Dominique Alexander, who is instead talking on behalf of the family. I don't know why Mike Howard hasn't cut this off and said, no, you will no longer speak on behalf of this family, and I will be taking over and I will be speaking on their behalf. This probably is another one of those situations where a white man don't want to be called a racist because he's stepping in front of a black man or stepping on the toes of a black man. But if I were the Anthony family, I'm like, nah, we need the best for our son. Which is kind of interesting that they're not talking like that, isn't it?
They're not going to handle it perfectly. The problem is that this family, by choosing Minister Dominique to speak for them instead of an attorney, has missed the biggest chance to save Karmelo. And I'll explain that in a second. But let's ask ourselves, who is this Minister Dominique? To represent the family, he has to be a stand-up guy. He's a minister. He has to be righteous, correct? Look at this.
Dominique Alexander telling me by phone today he had a dispute with the mother of his children. He said he didn't hit or hurt anyone. However, for whatever reason, that woman ended up in the hospital's ER here.
Oh my God.
That is a sense of betrayal to me.
Alinka Green stood with Dominique Alexander just 2 days ago, calling for the arrests of those who attacked and beat a transgender woman in South Oak Cliff. She received a call this morning, learning of a police investigation into alleged domestic abuse involving Alexander and the mother of his children.
From what I understood, it was very violent to the point to where she had to go to the hospital.
You can't claim to fight evil and then stand aside when someone that you're friends with commits such an injustice.
Activist Jeff Hood, the same man who led with Alexander.
Why is it always some dumbass white man that's doing some stupid shit like this? Oh my God. I don't even know what the hell he just said right there. Let me tell you white people something. It don't matter how down you think you are with the cause, you will never get invited to the picnic. I mean, you are out of place right there. I digress. Let's let this thing go ahead and keep finishing.
Activist Jeff Hood, the same man who led with Alexander the Dallas protest against police brutality on July 7, 2016, when 5 police officers were shot. He said he saw injuries on the body of Alexander's girlfriend on yesterday.
Oh my God.
Took her to a DPD substation to file a family violence complaint.
Steve, it wasn't 2 weeks ago that we were out in the streets in Deep Ellum protesting, marching, screaming, shouting against violence against women. And here we are today seeing one of the chief leaders of that protest having committed a despicable act of violence against his partner.
There he is right there.
At least you have a conscience on that, white man. Congratulations. Next time, choose your friends more wisely. Okay?
This man who is representing this family sent his girlfriend to the hospital, allegedly.
Alexander, by phone this afternoon, denied any physical attack against the woman. He called it a family dispute.
A family dispute. Let me get this straight. The family whose son stabbed a young man in the heart has appointed as their representatives a minister who allegedly sent his girlfriend to the hospital. Listen, let me be clear, all right? This woman was hospitalized and the minister said that he's innocent, that this was just a family dispute. I know from practicing over 20 years that men lie in court, but women can lie in court too. So I'm going to put this incident to the side for a second. But then look at this here.
And now that the public knows exactly what is going on, I ask, because these racist bigots, okay, the race card, let's go, try to prevent us from standing up for our baby, our boy.
He says he wants.
What are you talking about, our baby, our boy, and what's this racist and bigot? There's a lot of these pro-blacks That's the first thing that they go to. And it doesn't matter what it's about. It doesn't matter if it's over a shitty show like Ironheart, or if it's a situation like this where the black kid is the one who was the aggressor and stabbed someone in the heart. They always go to that race card. And they don't understand that shit's been cashed and been done. Everybody is tired of the race card being pulled so you can try to escape a culpability, accountability, and responsibility. No one is going along with that.
To stand up for their baby, their boy. The same boy, by the way, that put a knife through a young man's chest. But Minister Dominique wants to stand up for that boy, for that baby. Well, the issue is that there was another baby, another boy that Minister Dominique had an interaction with. What happened to that baby? Maybe this article will give us a little insight. It says Dallas activist Dominique Alexander sentenced to prison. You see here that the police reported that Minister Dominique had been babysitting his girlfriend's 2-year-old son in the evening when he called her at 11 at night and said, "Hey, get home now." But he didn't tell her why. When the girlfriend arrived, she found her child unresponsive. The good minister told his girlfriend that he had been watching a movie with her son on the couch. He paused the movie, and as he walked to the computer room, he heard the sound of her son, who was asleep on the couch, fall off the couch onto the floor. That was his argument. That was what he said happened. The doctors, however, disagreed. The doctor that examined the girlfriend's son in intensive care reported that the child had a subdural hemorrhage between the halves of his brain and the back of his brain. He also had retinal hemorrhages in both eyes. This article goes on to say on Friday afternoon, the prosecutors read the 2 statements that the good minister had signed not long after the incident occurred. In the first statement, the minister claimed that the child had fallen off the couch. In the second statement, the minister admitted to shaking the child. He was charged with a first-degree felony. And then, not long after he was arrested for injuring that child, causing severe bodily harm, the good minister got in trouble again for forging a check, leading police on a high-speed chase, and stealing a car. You are telling me that the Karmelo family appointed to represent them a minister who is a convicted felon, a minister who apparently sent his girlfriend to the hospital, then sent another girlfriend's 2-year-old son to the ICU with hemorrhages between the halves of his brain? This
is a piece of shit. And if you guys want to know where the money went, or it's going, the majority of it's probably going to him. This is sickening. Who approached whom? This snake just probably appeared out of nowhere and attached himself to this family, and he's making off like a bandit, a career criminal, a piece of shit. Which, by the way, just let me put this out there. When the charcoal black Benjamin Crump ain't coming around and hooking onto this, you know that this case is up the creek without a paddle. Not once during any of this time do they ever talk about the self-defense argument that was ever put forth by Karmelo Anthony. Immediately to the race and bigotry card to try to escape accountability, culpability, and responsibility. And then we got this snake right here, this woman beater, this child abuser, this convicted felon trying to talk about wanting to protect the baby. Man, that kid is 17 years old on his way to adulthood. Did a nefarious act of stabbing another kid in the chest because he didn't want to listen to somebody else. Touch me and see what happens. This is all grotesque and depraved. You guys are sitting there trying to trying to get the bag off your kid murdering somebody. And a lot of that's ending up in the pocket of this piece of shit.
Joker sent a baby to the hospital with brain damage. And this is the minister that the family wants to speak on behalf of Karmelo. Now, let's pause from this Karmelo case for a second to have a quick word from our sponsor, American Financing. Criminal case. What's the worst part? It's the sentencing. And a lot goes into sentencing. A lot goes into how much time you'll spend in prison. Karmelo's going to have the option to choose whether he wants the judge or a jury to sentence him. And in most cases out there in Texas, a jury is selected for that duty. Now, we know what a jury is supposed to be. A group of your peers. It's people selected from your community. If your community thinks you're trash and they hate you, they can lock you up for decades. But if that same jury, those same community members feel like you got a raw deal or that you deserve mercy, they can go easy on you. As an example, a man was recently sentenced when he shot his wife on camera at basically point blank range.
Yeah, I remember this when he accused his wife of cheating on him and going out and doing things, which, by the way, if you ever want to give justification for the actions of someone else, go ahead and engage in behavior that gave rise to that action. She was probably cheating on you. Look at you. You're a scumbag. You walked out, you're all naked, and you shot her point blank. She probably was trying to get away from you. I hope he probably didn't get the death penalty. I think he's probably in life in prison. But man, I tell you, sick and depraved.
She was unarmed. She didn't have any weapon. She was filming him with her phone. He killed her dead in the driveway. Don't you know that an all-female jury gave him only 10 years for the killing? And on top of that, after the first 5 years, he's then eligible for parole. The woman was unarmed and she's dead. Only 10 years and he might only serve 5. What is that? That's flexibility. That's discretion that's built into the legal system.
Man, those women. If I was on that jury, I would have given him life. That's sickening. They probably went easy on him because she was cheating on him. But I was like, nah, that's still not a reason to go in there and smoke somebody. And only 10 years. I think this happened back in 2016. I want to say. Oh, I think it happened. He's probably out of prison by now. Only 10 years and eligible for parole after 5. He got lucky.
Now, did Karmelo also kill someone at point blank range who was unarmed? Yes, he did. And did Karmelo in this case have that opportunity to use this flexibility, to use this discretion? Absolutely. And what happened? The good minister threw it all away. We know that young Austin Metcalf was killed by Karmelo, and Austin's father, Jeff Metcalf, has been very vocal about this case. He says that even though he is in so much pain, he has forgiven Karmelo. He sees the utter and complete tragedy in this situation. So at Karmelo's press conference, guess who shows up? Jeff Metcalf, the father. He shows up to pray with the family. And what does the family do? What does the good minister Dominique do? What do they do?
I already told you guys what he did at the beginning, and I agree with this attorney right here, the lead attorney. If he would have allowed. If Dominique Alexander would have allowed Jeff Metcalf to come in there and to pray along with the family, that would have gone a long way towards showing sympathy and remorse and would have been beneficial to Karmelo Anthony in his case, to show that his son was remorseful, his family was remorseful. But nope, they kicked him out. And then couple that with the fact that this $540,000, which was supposed to be raised for the legal defense fund for Karmelo Anthony, probably got pissed away because it has been reported that Karmelo Anthony will be getting a court-appointed attorney. You think any of that's going to go any close to providing sympathy to the jury?
Do when this grieving father shows up to pray with him, they kick him out.
But before the press conference began, Austin Metcalf's dad, Jeff, says he was escorted out by police. Mr. Metcalf has said that he came there to pray with the family, but you had him removed. Why?
I don't know anything about Mr. Metcalf coming to pray about the family. He never expressed that to any of the staff.
You said the father being at this press conference is a disrespect.
That's because he basically showed up at the press conference impromptu. So of course your staff wouldn't know that he was there. That was the opportunity for you to be the better man and to say, hey, let him come in. Nothing was going to happen. But you messed it all up.
The dignity of his son, that was disrespectful. Just shows you all the character. He was not invited.
Imagine invoking the name of this man's late son and saying that it was disrespectful to the son's memory. That's what this minister has just said.
He was not invited. You say it was a disrespect to the dignity of his son. Do you want to clarify that?
You know, at that time, I'm not above reapproach or whatever.
He's not above reapproach or whatever.
You know, it was high emotions at that time.
The good minister says that it was high emotions at.
But that's why you were the representative of the family, right? To bring down the emotions, to be someone who is stoic in a time of turmoil. But you got emotional. You got emotional. And you messed it all up, man. You're not above reapproach.
At that time. And these high emotions caused him to outrageously disrespect this grieving father. Do you know who's good at handling high emotions in legal situations? Attorneys. But who does this family have speaking for them? Good old Minister Dominique. Let me just ask you, how beautiful would it have been in this press conference to have the two families praying together, crying together, seeking reconciliation together, healing together? It would have made national headlines. The potential jurors in the community definitely would have seen that. The prosecutors would have seen that. The judge assigned to this case would have seen it. With these two families praying.
Which, by the way, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it right there. Let's let him finish, and I'll come back on the other side.
Together and healing together, what jury is going to throw the book at Karmelo after that? When the victim's own father said that he has forgiven Karmelo and nothing will bring his boy back, how can the jury lock him up and throw away the key forever? Believe me when I tell you that Minister Dominique just threw away a golden opportunity to cut years, maybe even decades off of Karmelo's sentence. There is no way to get that opportunity back. The handling of this case has just been an absolute disaster. Guys, what do you think? If you were the judge or the jury.
All right. So now here's the thing. The judge in this situation is a John P. Roach, I want to say. It's this guy right here. This guy right here is going to be the judge in the Carmelo Anthony trial. I got this big ass damn fly that just keeps flying around on my screen and everything. But man, I tell you. But anyways, he's the judge that's going to be, and apparently he's very tough. He is very tough. If you want to get more information on him, I'll link Black Conservative Perspective. He actually did a video on this, and he has some of the information on this judge within that video. So I will link to that. But yeah, he is especially tough on anyone who harms children. Now, this obviously is a case of two boys of equal age. So we'll have to see what that does. Apparently, he also has the power to either revoke the bond of $250,000 that was lowered by another judge, or to keep it where it is. I would recommend you just keep it where it is right now. It not put it back up to the million or anything. And lastly, on this entire situation here, if we go back here, I'm glad black people are finally starting to wake up and not be taken advantage of. Although you should have never been donating to this in the first place. The reason why, and you notice what the lead attorney said there about reconciliation, about this being a powerful moment of having the Metcalf father praying along with the Karmelo Anthony parents for reconciliation and remorse, and how that was a missed opportunity. That would have been a great time to actually strengthen race relations in the country. But instead of doing that, what Black America did was they decided to go ahead and donate money to this Karmelo Anthony Legal Defense Fund. Legal Defense Fund. I'm doing that in air quotes because I highly doubt any of that money is going towards any legal defense fund. So either the Anthony family or Dominique Alexander or both are trying to come up off the bag off of this heinous act committed by Karmelo Anthony. But you guys donated money to this cause right here. And just to go ahead and get the flip side of that, around that same time when this murder happened, there was a white woman by the name of Shiloh Hendricks who called a little black kid a nigga. And I'm using the soft version of that. She used the hard R. But that pissed you guys off to no end. And all the white people did, and anybody else who watched that situation did, was look at that and say, well, wait a minute. We asked for you guys to come along and side with us against this person who blatantly murdered someone, but you decided to push that off and to say and go ahead and contribute to this defense because you bought into the nonsense that this was somehow a racist act or something. And that Karmelo Anthony was defending himself, which made absolutely zero sense. Made absolutely zero sense. Like who brings a knife to school? But instead, what the white folks did and what a whole bunch of other people did was they started contributing hand over fist to Shiloh Hendricks' Give, Send, Go or GoFundMe or whatever she did, and she raised to the tune of $600,000. Now, she rode off into the sunset with her money because her conscience is free. She just called a little kid a name. No crime was committed. She's off. Everybody got heated for about a second, but she's off doing whatever she's doing with that money, while we're still talking about this Karmelo Anthony kid. And I know a lot of people was trying to push this nonsense that he somehow was in the right. Places like Amazing Lucas, who is called Amazing Bottom by Black Conservative Perspective. I don't know anything about that, but maybe by Dr. Umar Johnson. And a whole bunch of other black people, bougies and whatnot. But now they all silent. They're all silent. And this kid's going to be serving this time by himself. I hope you take the plea deal when your court appointed attorney comes to you and says, you ain't got a leg to stand on. At least you'll be given at least 25 a minimum with a chance for parole. And you should have had an attorney there to help you out through this difficult time and not some convicted felon Negro who obviously is grifting off of you, calling himself a minister of justice, whatever the fuck that means. But those are my thoughts. You guys jump down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Also, like I said, check out my other channel, Chris Bolts, if you want news on anime, on video games, things of that nature. I really love talking about that more than I love talking about this. You guys take it easy and have a great night.